Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2026 Waste Management Phoenix Open DFS Tactics show. Per usual on a Wednesday night, we're going to take a look at the forecast, which has changed drastically since Monday night. We are going to evaluate how that affects how we want to make some lineups and who we're going to target. We're going to cover the mixed condition model that I made for TPC Scottsdale and the Waste Management Phoenix Open this week. We're going to make some lineups, and of course, at the end of the show, we will cover the picks for the 2026 Picks Challenge between Gabe and I. We have a lot to get into. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night moving forward are from two data sources, both Fantasy National and the Rabbit Hole from BetSperts. I am going to slowly migrate over to the Rabbit Hole. Have started doing that this week, but I have a lot of work to do in the background to convert all of my files to the Rabbit Holes kind of nomenclature and heading and things of that nature. So it'll be a long process. So moving forward, I will be utilizing both Fantasy National and the Rabbit Hole. So if I neglect to mention that, those are the two data sites that I will be using. In terms of social media, my handle's in the description. Earlier this week, I posted some research regarding past winners of the Waste Management Phoenix Open, some course info, patterns of previous winners, and players in the field this week who fit those patterns. There were 8 players that I saw that fit 3 patterns from the past 10 years. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play that comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. So that'll be out later this evening. You want to see the players that I'm wagering with my own money and the players I'm using most often in my lineups, give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. I can't recommend it enough. And by subscribing to his article, you're going to get his deluxe version, which comes out every Wednesday. Early on Wednesday, has his top plays, values, all of that, projected ownerships. So you really are missing out if you aren't subscribed to his article. And follow him over on social media. Make sure you're showing him some support over there, because that is where we put our 2020 or our detailed write-ups for the 2026 Picks Challenge. After my disastrous Farmers, he has taken a 2-point lead early on in 2026. So I need to get back on the right foot and retake my lead, if you will. So make sure you're following him over on social media as well. And then lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you all. I see a couple of you in there. I'll get to you momentarily. I don't have a poll question typed up, but if you as a viewer can think of one, feel free to put it in chat, and I'll see how I feel about putting that out to the public. Otherwise, give me your thoughts on TPC Scottsdale. Have you seen the forecast and how drastic it has changed in the past 48 hours? Is Scotty still your favorite? Who are you targeting? Who are you staying away from? Put your thoughts and opinions into the chat, and play along with us on the 2026 Picks Challenge. Gabe and I would love for you to join us in that. And if you're not able to catch the show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2026 Waste Management Phoenix Open. And we're going to start, as we always do, on a Wednesday evening with the super forecast for Scottsdale and the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Good evening, John. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very, very much appreciated. Don't have X or social. That's no worries. So if you want to play along, in terms of, oh my, I just now realized my camera is not centered. Apologies for that. There we go. If you want to play along with us, just put your selections, in chat or put it into the comments of the show. Would love to have participation amongst viewers as moving forward, especially with the Picks Challenge. It's good to see you this evening. No poll question. I kind of rushed here after my Wednesday night obligations, trying to start somewhat on time considering I've been delayed, the past 3 or 4 weeks by a substantial amount. We look at the forecast for Scottsdale, and it has changed drastically. You see tomorrow morning gusts near 40 miles an hour whenever the players begin to tee off. A drastic change from what we saw on Monday night in our first look at the forecast. So even though the higher, sustained winds aren't until later, the morning wave is going to have a brutally hard time tomorrow with gusts approaching 40. And the wind does look like it tails off in the afternoon. With that said, Friday, it does look like the Friday morning wave is going to get the worst of it on Friday as well. But even with this calm wind here on Friday afternoon, I see Thursday morning being so difficult that I would have a pretty substantial advantage based on this forecast for Thursday p.m., Friday a.m. So you can see just the drastic amounts of wind that is in the forecast for tomorrow. A little bit of Friday morning, it does die off by Friday afternoon. But again, even though they have the best wind, they also have the worst by far, in my opinion, with these gusty, very, very gusty winds. So I've got a pretty significant favor for Thursday p.m., Friday a.m. And then if we zoom out, take a look at the weekend, doesn't look like much. Perfect weather. Looks like a warm front's coming through. High of possibly 80 on Sunday. Very little wind. But tomorrow looks very, very difficult, especially for the Thursday morning crowd or Thursday morning wave. So keep that in mind. I'll actually keep this open in case there are more questions throughout the evening. But because of this, I went ahead and brought up the moderate and windy filter in the rabbit hole. And fortunately, the rabbit hole gives us it's just off of your screen. So you see light winds is considered 0 to 9. Right underneath it is moderate at 10 to 17 and windy 18 miles an hour plus. So I went ahead and checked those two filters, trying to move the screen so you can see it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get it. So all of my settings are still set for Fantasy National. I still need to adjust for the rabbit hole, but I do have the moderate and windy filters selected in here, which is 10 to 17 for moderate, 18 for windy. Because this forecast drastically changed the last time we looked at it from Monday. I'm just going to have to reload this. So I'm going to set the time frame to the beginning of 2025. Good evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Hopefully you're ready for the waste management. Hopefully you've had a lot of success. It's been a little while since I've seen you. I know I saw you for the Sony, maybe the Amex. But hopefully you've been well. You are ready to conquer TPC Scottsdale and the waste management, the greenest show on the grass. Using the moderate and windy filter in Rabbit Hole. Were you here last week? I must have did okay. Xander missing the cut was ridiculous. I wasn't correct about a whole lot last week, Darnell, but that was one that I was pretty happy about in fading Xander last week. Now, I played a whole lot of Will Zalatoris, played a whole lot of Ludwig. That turned out to be a disaster. So, I'm not gonna sit here and claim much success from last week, because there wasn't. But I was right about Xander last week. But I'm glad to hear that you doubled up regardless of playing Xander. And I'm going to try and get back on the winning ways this week. But yeah, what about 5 but that's how it goes exactly. Yep. All right. Using this moderate and windy filter, your top performers in windy conditions, going back to the beginning of last year: Scotty, Harry Hall, Corey Connors, Chris Goddard, JJ Spawn, Hideki, Sepp Straka, Ben Griffin, Harris English, and Vince Whaley are your top 10 in terms of performance in moderate and windy conditions going back to the beginning of last year. So give these guys a decent boost, especially if you play Showdown for tomorrow. With only 1 day of substantial wind, maybe you don't put as much of an emphasis on wind performance. I certainly used it as a tiebreaker between, deciding between player A and player B, if you will, because tomorrow does look like it's going to be very, very difficult. So there's your top performers in the wind. If you want to see the other side of that, players who have not been good in the wind: Peter Malnati, Matthew Pavone, Rafael Campos, Carl Phillips, Cam Davis, Max Homa, Patton Kazire, Mackenzie Hughes, Tony Finau, Chris Kirk, so on. You can see some others there. I just highlighted the players that have enough rounds. You say JJ Spawn is out. I have not seen that. I will take your word for it. In fact, if we go to the leaderboard and Spawn, yeah. So Spawn is out. I will tell you, I was not going to play JJ Spawn, so that affects me absolutely not at all. But good to let me know, John. I appreciate that, considering I just got back to my computer about 10 minutes ago. So make note of that JJ Spawn has apparently withdrawn from the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So with that, I just wanted to give us a quick look at some wind performance, considering the forecast, especially for tomorrow. Let's jump into the mixed condition model that I have built for TPC Scottsdale and the Waste Management Phoenix Open this week. Let's see. Is that Karnicki? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's good to see you in chat. Thanks for jumping in there. Very, very much appreciated. I apologize. I don't have a poll question as I rushed back to my computer. I have some previous commitments on Wednesday night, but was rushing back to get here to try and start somewhat on time, considering I've been delayed the last 3 or so weeks. But it's good to see you in chat. Very much appreciated there, Karnicki. The mixed condition model for TPC Scottsdale. I'm going to start with 20% off the tee, and this is in the immediacy, in just 2026. How well have these players been off the tee? And the reason for that, we saw this Monday night, is that extreme recent form generally tends to lead to success here at TPC Scottsdale, and especially off the tee. 9 of your past 10 champions, specifically, gained off the tee in their previous event in the new calendar year. Off the tee is a big deal around TPC Scottsdale. Players are going to have to keep the ball in front of them, especially with all the wind. And now they cannot get wayward because of all the water, the native area. So a lot of emphasis this weekend off the tee. 20%, the heaviest portion of the mixed condition model, is recent off the tee form. I also have a couple other off the tee metrics in here. 5% off the tee on driver heavy golf courses. The more I looked at this filter yesterday and early today, the more I liked it, because when you look at players who have traditionally played TPC Scottsdale well, they have also played well on driver heavy courses. TPC Scottsdale, US Opens, the Farmers driver heavy golf course, Muirfield Village, driver heavy golf course. So these places that force driver in players' hands, you think about those players, Xander, Scotty, Hideki. They've generally played well on all of these courses. And with the heavy emphasis in off the tee, I wanted to see who's been the best off the tee on driver heavy golf courses, or when driver is forced into these players' hands. So 5% in that regard. 5% in total driving, again, on driver heavy golf courses. Total driving, if you're not aware, is the combination of length, or specifically driving distance, and accuracy, or fairways hit. So if a player is, I'm gonna make the math easy. If a player is 50th in distance and 50th in fairways hit, their total would be 100. And then you would compare that total to all the others. So just for example, as I'll show you here, I'm not going to have the off the tee or the driver heavy filter, but this total driving, you see somebody like Scotty, 35th in distance, 29th in accuracy, that comes up to a 64. That sum, this 64, is 9th best in this field. So that's where you get that, and that's how that rank is generated. So Thorbjornsen's actually 2nd best. Rico Hoey's 4th best in total driving. Just explaining to you as the viewer what total driving is. So you can see somebody like Marco Pinge, 1st in distance, but isn't hitting a lot of fairways. They are going to fall pretty drastically because off the tee really favors distance. So I wanted to see total driving because players will not be able to just spray it everywhere around here. This is not Vedanta. This is not El Cardinal. These fairways, although they are considered wide, they are, there is trouble to be had. So you can't just hit grip and rip driver and hit it anywhere you want. So I did want to see a little bit of accuracy in here. Heard driving left to right is good here. Yes, for the most part, especially on the back 9, a lot of the water tends to be on the left. So obviously playing away from the water helps. I'm thinking specifically like 11. 11, the water is all along the left-hand side of the fairway up to the green. 18, water is on the left, and the church, or the church pew bunkers are on the left. So I don't know. I wouldn't discredit anyone that is right to left per se, John. Especially if you think they're going to really play well around TPC Scottsdale. I wouldn't discredit the right to left, but there is a little bit to be said, especially on the back 9, for left to right golf shots around TPC Scottsdale. So 5% in total driving. You see I've got a total of 30% in various off the tee metrics. That is my heavy lean this week. So if off the tee ends up not mattering that much, I will be weak. But TPC Scottsdale traditionally really emphasizes off the tee. 15% in approach. It's not enough to just hit it far and hit it accurate off the tee. You're going to have to be really good with your irons to give yourself a chance to make some putts around TPC Scottsdale. So 15% in strokes gained approach. This honestly could be bumped up to 20% with all the wind, but I made this mixed condition model yesterday before the forecast drastically changed. So 15% in approach, 5% in total procs. Total procs being the Fantasy National header. Rabbit Hole uses overall procs, but it's the same thing. Total proximity, meaning how a player does from 100, from 150, from 200, from 250. And I like this metric because there is a decent amount of variance in terms of approach shots here around TPC Scottsdale. You'll get some wedges, because of the drivable par 4 if players decide to lay up. And there are a few short par 4s, but you'll get some long approach shots too. A couple of par 4s on the back are pretty long, measuring 470 plus on the scorecard. Generally speaking, all 3 of the par 5s get attacked in 2. Maybe the exception being the 15th that's guarded by water. So, and these are pretty large greens, 7,100 square feet, I believe, if memory serves. Go to course database. 7,069 square feet, so 7,100 if you want to round. Big greens, large greens. So it's not enough just to hit the green. If you just hit the green, there's a decent chance you're still pretty far away from the hole. So 5% in overall or total procs. Again, the par 5s are going to be a very, very important factor this week. You have to score on them to play well or to be in contention around TPC Scottsdale. So 10% in going for the green. That's what GFG. Going for the green, birdie or better percentage. So even if players don't hit the green, how well are they able to get up and down for their birdie? Or how well are they able to hit the greens and then 2-putt when going for the green on par 5s? And this also factors in short and drivable par 4s like we have at the 17th here at TBC Scottsdale. So 10% on going for the green, birdie or better percentage on driver heavy golf courses. So a very, very specific statistic, but one that I really feel like plays well or will lead us in the right direction here at TBC Scottsdale. Another interesting one, 10% in around the green on courses that scrambling from short grass is difficult. So I wish I had the list of courses that constitutes for you. I just don't. I'm not familiar enough with the rabbit hole yet to tell you which courses those are. But it is very well known that that chipping and putting from just off the green and the collars here at TBC Scottsdale is very difficult. These greens are pretty darn fast. They're very firm. And there's a lot of water that protects around greens. So I wanted to see the players who are adept at getting up and down or up and in when short grass is difficult. Now, not every single around the green shot is going to come from short grass, but the majority of them do around here. I believe close to 50% around the green shots come from short grass. Where is it? Let's see. Rough. Around the green shot percentage. So only 25% from rough, 47% from short grass, 27% from the sand. So I am neglecting around the green from sand and from rough. But you see, I mean, almost half a year around the green shots at TBC Scottsdale come from short grass. So that's why I have this emphasis in this specific filter. When scrambling on short grass is difficult, who is best around the green? And I thought it was pretty telling that in this specific metric, or metric and filter combination, Minwoo Lee was first. And Minwoo Lee has been pretty darn good around here. So there was a lot of correlation there. I really liked what I saw from that. I decided to put that in the mixed condition model. Might be a little bit heavy at 10%. I would not argue very much if you wanted to put 5% here and maybe add 5% to approach. But again, with the wind being as difficult as it looks like it's going to be tomorrow, maybe I ended up erring on the right side of this, considering that greens are going to probably get missed much more often than they normally do with how difficult tomorrow looks. So 10% around the green in that regard. 10% on with putting on Poa Trivialis. These are all the courses we've talked about all week, and we did for the American Express as well. This is Harbortown and Innisbrook, Memorial Park, all the courses that the GCSAA list as Poa Trivialis overseed. So 10% putting there, 10% in flat birdie or better percentage on driver-heavy courses. When driver is forced in players' hands, how adept are players in the field this week at getting birdies or better? It's 10% there. Even though tomorrow looks tough, the rest of the week is pretty calm, and winning scores generally get to about 20 under at TPC Scottsdale. So you're going to have to, you're going to have to make your fair share of birdies to be in contention. So I wanted to see who can go low on driver-heavy courses. And to finish the mixed condition model off, 10% in par 5s, considering how important they are around TPC Scottsdale. There's a look at the mixed condition model that I've made for the Waste Management Phoenix Open this week. Hopefully I've explained my thought process on why I've used the statistics and filters that I am, areas that I might be weak. Like I said, around the green might be a little bit heavy here. Maybe I don't have enough in approach. If off the tee doesn't matter as much, I'm going to be very weak considering, I've got a heavy emphasis in off the tee. But hopefully that gives you an idea on where I'm at this week for the Waste Management Phoenix Open. With that, we're going to go to Microsoft Excel, the reveal of my rankings. And for your information, if you're a new viewer, and as a reminder for returning viewers, my rankings are based on 3 criteria. The first is the mixed condition model rank, or the rabbit hole rank. The rabbit hole will spit out a ranking based on the mixed condition model that we just talked about, metrics and percentages, and you combine all that, it'll spit out a ranking 1 through however many players are in the field. Course value is an attempt at giving a player a numerical value at how well they have played that course in the last 5 years. I only go back 5 years because courses change, players change caddies, players change clubs. Things just change on the PGA Tour constantly. So I only go back 5 years, but course value is an attempt at giving a player a numerical value at how well they've played that course the past 5 years. The lower the number, the better. So you see Scotty, who's a 2-time champion, Brooks, who's finished 1st and 3rd, albeit it was some time ago, but finished 1st and 3rd. These guys have drastically low course values because they've played so well here. And the third and final portion of my rankings, or at least in terms of the mathematical formula, we are playing DFS. We're trying to find unique options off of our fellow contestants. So projected ownership is also a factor in my rankings. You combine all the, there's a mathematical formula that combines all 3 of these, spits out a number, and then sorts. The wind was included, the wind wave is included in the model. It is not. When I made the mixed condition model, the forecast was pretty darn calm. The hectic wind really kind of started showing up today in terms of a forecast. And that is why I have this column here for your benefit as the viewer, because I do not factor in what half of the draw a player is in my rankings. So you can see Scotty Scheffler still number 1, even though he is on the bad half of the draw. Sam Burns is still 4th, just because he's played so well here, decent pivot in the 9Ks, etc. That's why I give you this column. You can use however you see fit if you want to exploit or stack specific waves. I do not factor in which half of the draw a player is in. That's why I have this column for you all. With all that said, my rankings for the Waste Management Phoenix Open go as such. No surprise, Scotty Scheffler is my number 1 player. Siwoo Kim, Mav McNeely, Sam Burns, and 7,400 Keith Mitchell round out my top 5. You see Keith Mitchell getting helped quite a bit by the fact that he is so unique off of these other players, but he's also played pretty darn well here in multiple tries. So don't be don't scoff at Keith Mitchell, considering I have a decent amount of weight in course history this week. Rounding out my top 10, Rasmus Højgaard, Cameron Young, Corey Connors, Jordan Spieth, and Min Woo Lee. No real qualms with my top 10. You can always argue the ordering. I'm a little bit surprised that Scottie Scheffler stayed number one, considering the heavy ownership that he is garnering. But that's just showing you how heads and tails he is above everybody else in terms of course value, in terms of his actual ranking, the actual number that comes across. I mean, it's Scottie Scheffler, the best player in the world by far right now. Otherwise, the only other mention I'll have is probably Hideki. Hideki's getting hurt for a couple of different reasons. Mixed condition model-wise, he was only in the mid-30s, but he is on the good half of the draw, and he has been exceptional around TPC Scottsdale. Former two-time winner way back in 2016 and 2017, but he's not missed a cut here. He is a little bit, more heavily owned, so that's why he's falling a little bit. I would certainly put him in the top 10, but again, he's falling to 15th just based on the mathematical formula here. Otherwise, like I said, I don't really have any qualms. I've been high on Sam Burns this week. Probably not as high on Rasmus Højgaard as this might seem. He's played here once. It was a top 15, so he does have good course value because he's only played here once, but it was a good showing and a decent ownership. Decent as in not too heavy. All right, enough of that. Let's sort on the price board, figure out where our fellow contestants seem to be going on at various areas in the price board, and how we can maneuver around them. In the 5 digits, in the 10Ks, we only have 2 players this week. It's Scotty at 14.5, Xander at 10.5. One of these players is on the good half of the draw. One of these players is on the bad half of the draw. Don't care. Still playing Scotty. If there were a concern, it's the fact that these greens are generally pretty darn firm. And when the wind picks up and it gets really gusty, everyone thought he was going to be really, really good at Pinehurst a couple of years ago. And that turned out to be a disaster. But I could see potentially a similar situation playing out because of how baked out those greens were at Pinehurst. And I can see them getting baked out with all the wind that we're supposed to get, especially tomorrow. That said, number 1 player in the world, 2-time champion here. I'm honestly a little shocked that he's less than 30% owned. It looks like a lot of the DFS community is going to try and beat Scotty this week. Whenever that's the case, whenever he's less than 35 to 40% owned, I'm just going to hammer Scotty. Just going to play him. I know that's boring to hear, but I'm playing Scotty. I'm just very, very confident that he's going to play very, very well this week. Will he win? Maybe not. But I will take Scotty's floor over somebody like Xander, who, did not play well last week at a course that he generally does. Now, Xander has traditionally played Scottsdale very well as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Xander bounces back. But I am going to play a lot of Scotty. I'm talking more than 50%. Going to be closer to like 70% probably. I am not going all in on Scotty. I am going to make a few lineups that are not Scotty. But majority of it is Scotty lineups this week. I will sprinkle some Xander, maybe once or twice. But much like I did last week, I'm going to be a whole lot less than his ownership. 14.5 is crazy. Are you talking... what are you referencing on the 14.5? there, Darnell. Salary. Oh, yeah. I mean, it is very, very challenging to build Scotty lineups this week, but I've got a few. Well, I can't say a few. I've got a couple of 6K plays that I really want to highlight for you all. And we'll get down there, when we get down there in the price board. So that's why I don't mind going to Scotty, because there's a lot in the 7s and a couple of 6s that I'm really, really high on this week. So I'm going to play a lot of Scotty. But if that price is prohibitive, I get it. Because you're passing up a lot of very, very good players in this field to play Scotty. If you're playing Scotty, you're essentially neglecting the 9s and the 8s, basically. You might be able to squeeze in like a Pearson Cootie or Jordan Spieth, but it's very difficult. You're basically foregoing the 9s and the 8s by playing Scotty. Moving to the 9s, a lot of good options in here. Siwoo, who rated second. Look, he's just getting squeezed for me because I'm playing a whole lot of Scotty. Like, I'm not going to play any Siwoo, but it's not that I don't like him. I mean, clearly he rated second for me. 20% is a whole lot of ownership. You got to, at least for me, I'm hoping that the irons kind of cool off. He's not the best on this surface. But I understand the love for him. I really do. I wasn't high on Cameron Young last week, but this is more of a good fit for Cameron Young, I would think. But again, because I'm playing all the Scotty, can't get there. I will sprinkle some Hideki in my non-Scotty lineups. It's not very many lineups to be said, but I am going to play some Hideki in my non-Scotty lineups. He's just been so good here at Scottsdale and has the perceived good half of the draw. I also kind of like Sam Burns, even though he's got the bad half of the draw. He's a pivot off of all of the other 9Ks above him. He's got 2 top 10 finishes, including a runner-up a couple years ago. Not that I am still salty about it, but I may have had the outright on him when he went in the water on 17 to lose to Nick Dunlap. Not that I'm, remembering that vividly or anything. But Sam Burns has generally been pretty good around here, and he is the best putter on this surface. One of the best putters in the world regardless. So I do like Sam Burns. And then if I'm in the 9Ks, generally speaking, I'm going to Matt McNeely. Matt McNeely has played this tournament 3 times. The first time he played was a withdrawal, so it didn't actually record an official score. The other 2 times have been top 10s. He's got 2 top 10s the past 2 years here at Scottsdale. Coming off a top 10 last week at the Farmers. Also played at, I believe it was the Amex. It might have been the Sony. Also top 25 that week. Good putter on the surface. Great around the green game. Ball striking's there. He's gotten the rust off. I love everything about Mav McNeely this week. I would play a lot more Mav McNeely if I could find a way to fit Scotty and Mav McNeely together. I just can't. So I will tell you, almost 100% of my non-Scotty lineups have Mav McNeely. So that's the way I look at the 9Ks. I'm going to play Hideki for his great course history here. I've got a gut feeling on Sam Burns, especially I like the fact that he's a pivot off of a lot of these other players up here. And in the 9s, I am heavily, heavily going to Mav McNeely. And again, thank you to John for shouting out that JJ Spawn has withdrawn. I'll go ahead and type that in here. I did not see that from earlier today, but thanks, John, for that. Moving to the 8s. Again, because I am so heavily invested in Scotty, the 8s are pretty difficult for me. That said, Brooks never rates out well for me. He's always traditionally been very low. Top 15 in this field is, something to note. An amazing course history, a very, very respectable or easy to get to 8.5% projected ownership. knocked the rust off at the Farmers last week. It wasn't a splendid performance. It wasn't fantastic by any means, but you think of these other players that missed the cut: Xander, Zalatoris, Ludwig. I mean, all the other players that missed the cut. Brooks at least made the cut and then played, fairly acceptable on the weekend. Coming to a course that he's very comfortable with, obviously. I've got no reason not to like Brooks. So if you're not playing Scotty this week, I really, really like Brooks this week. Elsewhere in the 8s, I mean, I don't know how you don't play Chris Gotterup, or at least considering. Yes, bad half of the draw, sure. But my goodness, this guy is on an absolute heater right now. Of course, he wins the Sony. The Farmers was okay. Number 1 and off the tee early on in 2026. The ball striking is still there. Good putter on this surface. Does very, very well on driver-heavy golf courses. I like a lot about Chris Gotterup. He is 0 for 2 here at TPC Scottsdale, but he's a different player now. Like, he's won a couple times since last year's Waste Management. So I don't like the ownership, but I like the player. So if I were in the 8s, I would be eager to go to Chris Gotterup. I'd also be eager to go to Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth has been very good around TPC Scottsdale as well. A little bit higher ownership than I would like for Spieth, but hard to ignore how good he's been around here. Played the Amex, I believe. Everyone knows about his, good around the green game. He's actually been pretty good on par 5s. Been better off the tee. I don't mind Jordan Spieth this week. And you can take a look at Pearson Coody, but it seems like a lot of people seem to like Pearson Coody, even though he has never played here. The fit seems, or it seems like a logical fit, I should say. Top 10 off the tee. Very aggressive player. So gets birdies on driver-heavy golf courses. Good putter on the surface. Top 5, just birdies in general. Number 1 off the tee player on driver-heavy courses. Number 2 in total driving, driver-heavy golf courses. Like, this feels like a natural fit for Pearson Coody, even though he's never played here. So, again, don't love the ownership, but if I were in the 8s more, I'd be willing to stomach it. Gotterup, Young, and Knapp for me. Again, I don't necessarily hate any of those. I'm just not there because I'm playing a whole lot of Scotty. Like I said, I like Gotterup. I would be a little bit worried about Jake Knapp, only because you look at his total driving. He can get quite wayward with his driver, and that would spell disaster around TPC Scottsdale. He's played well once here, and he played well, and he did not play well in his other try. I think he's played here twice. So that's what my concern would be with Jake Knapp. He played really darn well last week at the Farmers. Not taking that away from him, but the Farmers doesn't have any trouble around that golf course. And you can find some trouble at Scottsdale. So that would be my concern there, P. I understand the love for Cameron Young. I'm not going to play any Cameron Young, but it's not because I don't like him. It's just I'm going to Scotty. So Young, ANC, we were getting squeezed for me. I don't have anything wrong with Young. I don't have anything wrong with Gotterup. The one I'm most worried about of those 3 you mentioned would be Jake Knapp. But if you're not dissuaded by the fact that his driver can get a little wayward, then fire it up. So that's how I feel about the 8s. Moving into the 7s, this is where I've been making a lot of, spending a lot of my time because I'm playing a whole lot of Scotty. Starting with Corey Connors. We all know that he struggles with the around the green stuff. Not the best putter in the world, but he's actually been pretty good here at Scottsdale. He's only played once. It was the Sony, a vastly different style course than TPC Scottsdale, but the irons were in fuego at Waialae. So I'm not concerned. At least what I should say is I am believing in the elite iron play to get Corey Connors through a very difficult Thursday in the hopes that, better scoring opens up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I mean, despite the fact that he's not terribly long, he's still top 25 in this field in total driving. A lot of that has to do with, yes, his accuracy, but top 5 in proximity, decent enough putter on this surface, and actually, he's not bad around the green with short grass. So I'm going to be extremely overweight on Corey Connors. He's going to be much more than 9% for me. He's in a decent amount of my lineups. A lot of my Scotty lineups have come down to Connors as a second play. Not all the time, but many of them. The rest of the upper sevens, I kind of got thrown for a loop or taken aback by the fact that they mostly have the bad half of the draw. I wanted to like Nick Taylor because of his history here. Bad half of the draw. His irons have not been very good early in 2025, in 2026. There's been a lot of talk about Sepp Straka, top 15 here last year, but before that, he was really bad around here. So, kind of a, wait and prove it to me again Sepp type deal. Thorbjornsen's been really bad here. Rasmus rated out extremely well. Very good off the tee, but the irons haven't been there, and I do worry about this. So, in the upper sevens, I'm going to Connors. I will sprinkle a little bit of Sepp, but that's really about it in the upper sevens. Moving to the the mid sixes. Again, I want to like Kurt Kitayama. He's been very good around here in several tries. Bad half of the draw. Not very good a putter on this surface. That's very, very concerning. The appeal with Kurt Kitayama is that on these driver-heavy golf courses, he generally plays his best. Like, think about his win at Bay Hill. Bay Hill is long, it's difficult, forces driver in your hand, and he wins. The Rocket Mortgage, easy, but hits a lot of drivers. So I like the course fit for Kitayama. I don't like the fact that he doesn't have the good half of the draw. Elsewhere in the mid-sevens, JT Poston is fine. I am a little bit concerned with Max Homa, even though, the underlying metrics seem like they are, trending in the right direction for Max. I don't know. I was really high on Max Homa last week, missed the cut, kind of soured my taste on Max Homa. This might be one that I regret because the underlying metrics suggest that he should be pretty good here, and he's very, very little owned. I'm a little gun shy after last week, I'll say. Haotong Lee has been very good to start 2026. Give him a long look, especially since he's at 7.5%. And then moving into the lower sevens, I love both of these players. And yes, Keith Mitchell, team no putt, I get it. 8.5% on a player that's top 10 to this event twice, number 2 and off the tee early on in 2026, and he's played a lot already. Despite the fact that he's not a very good putter, he's acceptable on this surface. You look at driver-heavy golf courses, top 15, top 20, and then total driving is top 10. I like a lot of Keith Mitchell. So come Friday night when he's missed the cut because he can't make a putt, I'll be kicking myself knowing that I shouldn't have went to Keith Mitchell, but I'm going to play a lot of Keith Mitchell. In fact, we'll just check out his player page just very, very quickly. He's been solid. He's back to doing Keith Mitchell type things, gaining a whole bunch ball striking and losing it all with the putter, and I can accept that. Top 15 last week at the Farmers. American Express was a little bit worse just because he had a little bit of a down iron week, but I was very encouraged with Keith Mitchell last week, especially in the ball striking. So I will be playing metric F-tons of Keith Mitchell, despite what I should know. And I love Minwoo Lee as well. Minwoo Lee should be very good this week. Very aggressive player, very good, good putter on this surface. Number one around the green when, scrambling on short grass. I like both of these players. These players are going to be in a lot of my lineups, considering their soft pricing to help with Scotty's 14.5. Elsewhere in the bottom half of the sevens, I agree with you, Darnell. Sam Stevens is worth a look. Very, very long look. The issue is he is not nearly as unique as you think he is. He is the player that is getting the most attention down here by far in the low sevens. Berger at 7,500, but once you get below Daniel Berger, the only other player in double digits is Sam Stevens, so he is the chalk for the area. I just want to make you aware of that. I don't hate the play, or I don't hate the shout, Darnell, at all. I'm going to be playing, quite a bit of Sam Stevens. Excellent ball striker, actually pretty good around the green from the short grass. He's been decent enough here in a couple of tries. I like it. Just be aware then that he is not all that unique. That's all I'm going to say. But I do like Sam Stevens. If I'm not playing Scotty, I'm playing all these guys. One lineup. Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely. Like I said, I'm just giving you what I'm seeing here as he is by far and away the most popular player in his area of the price board. I like Bridgman. Can you do a dive? Yeah, we'll get to him in a second. I thought about him, but I want to highlight two more players in the low sevens, and then we'll highlight Bridgman. RNP, Rasmus Nergaard Peterson. This feels like a very good fit for Rasmus. Very good ball striker. Very good scrambler from short grass. On these driver-heavy golf courses, he's performed pretty well. Just like Keith Mitchell, RNP has one deadly weakness, and that is his putter. He's been awful with the putter. There's no way to say it otherwise. He has been awful. He's had very, very little experience on the PGA Tour, but he's never gained strokes in a tournament putting. Never. Now, we don't get putting from the Puerto Rico Open, so we never, you don't know, maybe he gained that week. But following the pattern here, he's never gained. I believe in the talent because of all this ball striking. He's never lost strokes ball striking. U.S. Open, PGA, Valspar, all of this. He's always gained strokes ball striking. This is a very, very elite talent. He's just got to learn to putt on the PGA Tour. He's going to be dangerous. Good evening, P. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Hopefully you have had a good week. You are thawed out from all of the frigid temperatures in your neck of the woods. Hopefully you had a good Farmers. Mine was a disaster, so we're going to try and get back on the right foot for the Waste Management, the People's Open, one that I believe you have partaken in years past, to which I am pretty jealous of. But it's good to see you in chat this evening, P. Very, very much appreciated. So I wanted to make sure I highlight Rasmus Nergaard Peterson. We'll go ahead and do the Jacob Bridgman dive now before we go back to Fantasy National. So right off the bat, John, again, small sample size, because of this moderate and windy, but he has not been good in windy conditions, at least since the beginning of last year. And if you take a look at a couple other things here, like he played well Sony and the American Express, yes, but he didn't. I'd be a little bit concerned with the Sony because he gained so much putting. Ball striking's there, absolutely. But then you take a look at his performance at the Waste Management. It's only one time, yes, but it was not very good. And he's not been great on driver-heavy golf courses. Let me highlight him here for you. Like, off the tee, driver-heavy, 110 out of 122 or so, 123. 100th in total driving. Like, great putter, especially on this surface, John. Absolutely. Pretty good scrambler with short grass. Yeah, it's... The ball striking's there so far early in 2026, but I am concerned with his wind performance a lot too. And he's on the bad half of the draw tomorrow. So take that for what you will. If you believe the ball striking is going to continue, then fire him up. I'm not there. If he was on the good half of the draw, maybe I'd consider it. I'm just not there. Last name I want to give you in the low sevens before we go to the sixes is Johnny Kiefer. Johnny Kiefer, top 15 in both ball striking statistics early in 2026. Small sample size for the putter. I'm not worried about it. 6th in total driving. This feels like a very good fit for Johnny Kiefer. So I'm going to play a little bit of Johnny Kiefer in the hopes that he starts his ascension for 2026, because I am very high on him in terms of year-long success. He's had a very slow start to 2026. I do think this is a pretty good spot for him. Had a 10-year run at the Waste Management in the 2000 teens. Too much of a cluster in Scottsdale now. Yeah. Well, but still, you had a heck of a run there, and I'm sure it was still a lot of fun. Quite jealous of that, so pretty jealous of it, P. Actually, you know what? I know it's not golf related, but I just now thought about it. I'll start a poll. So give me 1 second. Because it is Super Bowl weekend, I have a feeling I know a couple of these answers already from specific members of the community. But let's have some fun there. What's going on with my camera? I was fading in and out there. All right. Let's have some fun. Who you got in the Super Bowl? Patriots or Seahawks? Just for fun. I know we're talking golf, but I didn't have a poll question, so I wanted to make sure I put something out there for you. Darnell, I figured I knew your answer. Very good. All right. Moving into the sixes, because I am playing so much Scotty, I have to find some value or some people down here that I want to use. And I think I have a couple of names here for you in the 6Ks if you are playing Scotty this week. First, at 6,900 is Joel Damon. Joel Damon played very well at the Farmers. He's gotten off to a good start in 2026. He's been okay around Scottsdale. Joel Damon, much like Keith Mitchell, it's always going to come down to the putter. Is he going to make enough putts? But I don't mind Joel Damon at 6,900 here, especially considering the start that he's gotten off to in 2026. He's taking advantage of par fives. Even on these driver-heavy courses, he's not known for his driver. He's not known to be long. He's not the most accurate. He is fairly accurate, but he's been pretty good on driver-heavy golf courses. So I'd give Joel Damon a pretty long look in the 6Ks, especially if you're playing a lot of Scotty like I am. Moving down, be aware that the most common plays down here seem to be Mac Meisner and John Perry. And I was pretty high on John Perry, I believe, at the Amex. So, I mean, I don't hate this idea, especially since he's on the good half of the draw. But just be aware, if you're, what's Prox 5? This is overall proximity or total proximity. How adept a player is at hitting it close to the hole. And 5% is what the weighting I gave it in the mixed condition model. Whereas off the tee is 20%. So I have a lot more emphasis on off the tee than I do in proximity. But that's what that is, John. Damon lives 10 minutes from Scottsdale. Yeah. I mean, I know it's a home game for him and stuff, but I mean, it's just, I just like the way he's played. Echoes, thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Let's make some money. That's the goal. I will be the first to admit that last week was pretty much a disaster for me. I had a couple of things right, but not nearly enough to offset the terrible suggestions that I had for you all, highlighted by Will Zalatoris and Ludwig. So I'm going to try and get back on the right foot myself this week. But very much appreciated that you jumped into the chat there. Feel free to answer the poll question, put your thoughts and opinions on any players. We'll be making lineups here soon as well. Thanks for jumping in chat. Like I said, just be aware, Mac Meisner, John Perry, these guys are not going to be very unique in the 6Ks for you. Mac Meisner is the most projected owned player in the 6Ks. It's at close to 6%. John Perry, 4.5%. Brian Harmon's at 4%. So these guys are pretty common in terms of your 6K plays. So I'm going to give you a couple other names as we move lower on the price board. Austin Smotherman kind of draws my attention. Yes, the course value is horrendous. He has not been very good here. But I want you to take a look at how good his ball striking has been early on in 2026. Fourth in irons in this pretty darn solid field. He's fourth in irons early in 2026. Yes, small sample size, but you at least know that he's in good form. Off the tee's been strong. He's been number one at birdies or better when he's going for the green, which you have to do here at Scottsdale with the drivable par 4, the 3 par 5s. I like a lot of what Austin Smotherman is offering other than the fact that he's not played this course very well. So I'm hoping this is a different outcome for him. I mean, top 10 in total procs for Austin Smotherman early in 2026. So give Smotherman a long look, especially since he's on the good half of the draw. Two more names for you. Down here in the low sixes, Adam Schenk, who I don't remember who it was last week at the Farmers, but somebody mentioned Adam Schenk, and to their credit, he played pretty well. So I was nowhere near Adam Schenk last week. He's on the bad half of the draw, or at least perceived bad half of the draw, but he's been playing well early in 2026. He's been also pretty darn good around Scottsdale, so take a look at Adam Schenk. But the mad scientist play this week, the crackling thunder, laughing maniacally play, is Sudarshan Ilamaraju. Say that 5 times fast. I've been impressed with his off the tee game so far at both the Sony and at the Amex. He doesn't have a bad statistic across anything that we collected. Off the tee, top 25, number 1 at birdies or better when going for the green. Irons have been acceptable. Putter, it's a very, very small sample size, but he putt okay at the Amex, which is also Poa Trivialis. Par 5s, he's taken advantage of enough. The mad scientist play this week is the Indian-born Canadian tour player, DP World Tour player as well, Sudarshan Yelamaraju. You have to make a lineup with Charlie Hoffman, with Chuck. A good half of the draw. He's been very good here. That's all I got for you, P. I mean, the underlying metrics don't suggest it. But he has been good here. All right. Sudarshan is the play. Yep. Let me show you. Just very quickly. Sudarshan Yelamaraju. So, ranking wise, he's acceptable in the wind, 34th. But if you actually sort by like average, he's up here in the top 12 or so in terms of average off the tee, strokes gained in the wind, top 7. Small sample size. I get it. Small sample size. He's been very good in the wind in short amount of time. Can he putt? Well enough. Putt the Farmers, he gained 3 last week at Torrey Pines South. Field average at the Amex in his one round since he got cut. He only played one round at the stadium course. Top 15 at the Sony. Gained. He's gained off the tee every single event. There's a lot to like here, Darnell. Again, he's 6,200. If you're playing Scotty, which I am a lot, you're going to have to find players that you need to take chances on. And the mad scientist play this week is Sudarshan. All right, let's start making some lineups. Feel free to keep putting your questions into chat. I apologize if I don't get to them all because I try to keep this show at about an hour. I know we're already over that. So I'll get to as many questions as possible. And, of course, I still want to cover the 2026 Picks Challenge between Gabe and I. All right, if we're going to make some lineups, the first lineup that we need to look at is what do we think a Scotty lineup is going to look like? And I'm going to be honest with you, it's very difficult. I think a lot of our fellow contestants are going to try to beat Scotty this week because Mac Meisner is the most common 6K play at 5-6%. There's also John Perry, Mac Meisner. But it doesn't give you a whole lot of wiggle room, obviously. 7,400 per player here. They might be able to come up to like a Kurt Kitayama, maybe. Or a Rasmus Højgaard. Yeah, maybe Rasmus. But Sam Stevens is up here. Unfortunately, he's going to have to go here. We're going to have to come off Rasmus. 7,400 per player. You got Poston and Berger. Look, I understand this is a couple hundred over. I'm just trying to highlight the players that are going to be pretty popular with Scotty. Poston's looking like he's going to be popular with Scotty. Berger's popular with Scotty. Sam Stevens is going to be popular with Scotty. I understand this isn't a horribly huge number. I'm just trying to get the chalky plays in here because there isn't a whole lot of ownership in the 6Ks. There just isn't because it looks like a lot of our fellow contestants are going to try to beat Scotty this week. 19.4 is Siwoo. Whoops. You've got Siwoo. You've also got Chris Goddard's going to be in here. They are bottoming out at Sam Stevens. I did Berger and Poston. Let's try like a Rasmus in here. Pearson Cootie is getting a lot of a look. And then 8,900 Ricky, Jake Knapp. So these are the kind of lineups that seem to be more popular this week. Seemingly. substitute out Højgaard for Poston maybe, or maybe Cootie. Maybe Cootie comes up to a Cootie's there, got her up. Like maybe they go, instead of Jake Knapp, maybe they try to squeeze in a McNeely and drop off somebody. 200. Cootie comes down to, or Højgaard comes off down to like Berger or Poston. There's a couple of ways you can go about it, but it seems like our fellow contestants are more trying to beat Scotty. Look at all this ownership in the 9s. So with that, I'll show you 2 different lineups, one with Scotty and one without. The way I'm building my non-Scotty lineups, I am 100% basically on Mav McNeely. So for me, I like Hideki. I like Sam Burns. In fact, you can kind of build a Stars and Scrubs lineup in a different fashion. Instead of going Scotty or Xander like 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, and 6, what's wrong with doing like 9, 9, 7, 7? Or like come down to the 6s once for like a Joel Damon. Leaves you 7,500 per player here, and you get 3, maybe not tournament favorites, but three of the top probably 10 tournament favorites. Hideki's been great here. I love everything about Mav McNeely this week. And you can fill this out however you want. You can go a couple of mid 7s to balance it out. You can go an upper 7 and a low 7. In fact, what's wrong with Johnny Kiefer? Go Johnny Kiefer, and then you can go like Pearson Cootie if you're high there, or Corey Connors. Like you can build this lineup several different ways, and you don't have to come into the 6s for Joel Damon if you don't want to. You can come down off of Connors, maybe go somewhere like Poston or Hao Tong Lee, and then bring this up to like a Sam Stevens would be fine, or a Minwoo Lee or a Keith Mitchell. So that's one way to go about the non-Scotty lineups, is Mav McNeely. Like I said, I've been all in on Mav McNeely. You can go like 999, 777 essentially. Another way you can do a non-Scotty lineup, do a more traditional balanced build. I'll start this one with Mav, and you just load up on the 8s because there's a lot to like in the 8s. You can look at Jake Knapp. I'm a little bit more concerned about Knapp than some of these others, but Brooks, great. Gotterup's getting a whole lot of attention, but for good reason. Spieth has been fantastic around TPC Scottsdale. And you've got 2 upper 7s here. You could go like a Corey Connors, Sepp Straka, Rasmus if you're there. I'm not necessarily as high on Rasmus, but you could take a look at Rasmus, and you got 8,000. You can take some price savings and go like Hao Tong Lee. Might be duplicated once or twice, but the fact that you're skipping all of this ownership makes me think this is a pretty unique lineup if you're loading up in the 8s/upper 7s. So that's a couple different ways to build your non-Scotty lineups. For me, most of my lineups have been Scotty, and because of that, I'm using the Mad Scientist play of Sudarshan. But even so, even dropping all the way to 6,200, still don't have a lot of flexibility here. For me, you can go Connors, JT Poston, Hao Tong Lee. I love Keith Mitchell this week, and Minwoo Lee for that matter. So nothing wrong with these 2. If you're really willing to be bold, you can go like Superstars and Super Scrubs. You can go like a couple of 6Ks. Do something like Sudarshan, Joel Damon. I didn't mention him, but Michael Brennan. Talk about a comparison course. The Black Desert Resort. very, very similar to TPC Scottsdale in that there's forgiveness in the fairways, but if you're offline, you're in deep trouble. Michael Brennan won at the Black Desert Resort this fall. I like Michael Brennan in the lower sixes, or excuse me, in the sixes. And then 7,700 is, Rasmus or Kurt Kitayama, who I really like. You can save some money here and go Rasmus Nergard Peterson. And you're not in danger of duplicating at all, especially if you're willing to go with a couple of 6Ks. Because Scotty in of himself, even though he's the most projected on player, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of Scotty lineups floating around. And that's why I'm big on him. Fade Scotty at your own risk. He's the number one player. So, having said that, now that I'm playing a whole lot of Scotty, he's going to finish 48th. And it's going to be a horrible week for me, but it is what it is. My core, just very, very quickly for you all, my core is Scotty. I'm going to list Mav McNeely because he is in essentially 100% of my non-Scotty lineups. Corey Connors is core for me. Keith Mitchell, Minwoo, Sam Stevens is core for me. I'll list Brennan, but he's a little bit more. He's a little bit less used than some of these others. And then, of course, the Mad Scientist play of Sudarshan. So that's my core. Again, I'm not playing Scotty and McNeely together. That's basically impossible. But if I'm not playing Scotty, I made sure to put McNeely in basically 95 to 98% of my non-Scotty lineups. All right, with that, we're going to go to, oh my gosh, what is going on with my camera? Why am I blurry? I apologize. I don't know how long I've been blurry, but good segue. I'm going to go to the picks challenge. Save you all from that horrible visual there. Do I like Hao Tong Lee? I love Hao Tong Lee this week. Hao Tong Lee would also be, kind of like Michael Brennan. I'll take you back. Sorry again for the pixelation of the camera, but Hao Tong Lee would be probably a similar core play of Michael Brennan. He's in a little bit less than Mitchell and Lee and Connors, but he's definitely getting used. All right, picks challenge between Gabe and I, just very, very quickly. Gabe has taken a 2-point lead on me. I need to rectify that situation considering how bad the Farmers was. So I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball. Both of us would take Scotty. It would be a boring answer if we just both chose Scotty. But in all honesty, our pick to win is Scotty. Hey Sam, good evening. Thanks for jumping in chat. You haven't missed it all. Just at the end of the show. So I just thank you for jumping in chat at the very end there. Very much appreciated. We're going to try and have a week. So in the interest of giving you a fun answer, a non-Scotty answer, I'm going to take Mav McNeely to win this week. I'm very high on Mav. Talked about how he's got 2 prior top 10s here. He's played very well to start 2026. I like Mav McNeely. Gabe's going to go back to the well. He picked Hideki to win last week at the Farmers. Played okay. He's going to pick Hideki to win this week in Scottsdale. My favorite play, Keith Mitchell, sub 10% at 7,400. Yes, the putter is a little bit worrisome, but it hasn't stopped him from having a lot of success around Scottsdale before. So we're going to try and ride that wave. And Gabe and I are on a similar wavelength. His favorite play is Matt McNeely. I'm going to fade Ben Griffin, not for the fact that I don't like Ben Griffin this week. It's just I'm playing a whole lot of Scotty. I can't squeeze in all of the players that I like in the 9s. I have to plant my flag somewhere. I'm planting my flag on Matt McNeely. which means I'm not going to be able to play any Ben Griffin. So by definition, he is a fade, even though I do think he'll probably play well this week. And then Gabe's going to fade Jake Knapp for the reasons that I mentioned. Can get pretty wayward with the T-ball, and that usually doesn't spell success around Scottsdale. Mad Scientist play, for me, I've talked about it quite a bit. It's Sudarshan, Ilamaraju. And then for Gabe, it's Emiliano Grillo at 6,600, which I don't mind. I played, a little bit of Grillo this week. FOMO, fear of missing out, guys that despite what we think, whether it's ownership or, in this case, bad half of the draw or whatever, we're just finding a way to put them in our lineup. I'm going to find a way to put Chris Goddard up in some lineups. Guy's just on fire right now. Winning the Sony, played well at the Farmers. This feels like a pretty good fit for Chris Goddard. So I'm going to find ways to play Chris Goddard. Gabe's going to find ways to play Harris English. And then our wild card category, the top WMPO debutante, or somebody who has not played the Waste Management, who is going to be the top of that leaderboard. For me, technically, it would be Sudarshan, since I'm so high on him. But in the interest of giving you a different answer, I'm going to take Rasmus Nergard Peterson, RNP. I just think what his skill set is will play well around Scottsdale. And then for Gabe, he's going to take Johnny Kiefer. So again, that's the pick selections. Our detailed write-ups for the reasonings why we chose the players that we did are over on his on Gabe's social media page. His handle is there on your screen. So go give him a follow, show him some support, and play along with us. Whether that's over on his social media page or in the comments of the show, we would love for you all to play along with us. Put your knowledge up against us. See how you fare. That's going to be it in terms of a show this evening. Again, I apologize for my camera. Wait a second. What if I turn off? Oh, there it goes. Hey, that fixed it. So again, apologies for the blurry camera there at the end. I have got a lot of people to thank. John, Darnell, Karnicki, P, Echoes, and Sam. Thank you all very, very much for jumping into chat and participating. Really do appreciate it. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. I love what I do, taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician and data analyst view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. I'll try and get back on the right foot this week for the Waste Management after a very, very poor Farmers. Reminder that my betting card and my official top player usage will be posted over to X shortly after the show. I do need to finalize my lineups and get them entered, and then I will post that over to social media. So thanks again for all the support, for all the wagers you've made this week for the Waste Management Phoenix Open, for all the DFS contests you play this week for the Waste Management Phoenix Open, for this weekend and every weekend. May all your bets be profitable.